Night shifts often reveal a world hidden by daylight, a realm where the strange and unsettling seem to thrive, leaving indelible marks on those who witness them. These aren't just late-night jitters or overworked imaginations. These are encounters that defy logic, experiences so profoundly disturbing they reshape the perception of reality for those who endure them. Consider the nurse on a deserted hospital ward long past midnight. Sarah had worked countless graveyard shifts, accustomed to the eerie quiet broken only by distant alarms or the soft hum of machines. But one Tuesday, patrolling a floor that had been empty for weeks, a faint, rhythmic tapping echoed from what was once the children's wing. It wasn't the wind. As she slowly approached, the tapping turned into a distinct bounce, followed by the unmistakable sound of a child's gleeful giggle. Then a soft, small, red rubber ball rolled from an open doorway into the sterile corridor. The hair on her arms stood on end. The room was dark, the door ajar, but every sensor confirmed not a soul, living or otherwise, had been on that floor in months. Sarah didn't investigate further. She simply locked the door and moved on, forever haunted by that impossible laughter. What could explain such a vivid auditory hallucination? Then there's the solitary security guard, Mark, overseeing a sprawling, abandoned factory complex. His monitors usually showed nothing but dust motes and flickering shadows. One night, however, a camera covering the old assembly line began to show movement, faint, shimmering distortions, like heat haze but in the dead of winter. It escalated. Soon, clear, dark shapes, too tall and thin to be human, were visible, moving with an unnatural fluidity between dormant machinery. Mark swore he could feel a chill, an almost physical pressure emanating from the screen. He radioed for backup, describing what he saw. But as he waited, the feed suddenly went black, not just for that camera, but the entire system. When the police arrived, they found all the servers inexplicably disconnected, pulled clean out of their ports, and a single, heavy metal wrench lying perfectly centered on Mark's now blank monitor screen. He never returned to that building. Have you ever been completely alone, only to feel an undeniable presence right behind you? That's what plagued Ethan, a stalker in an all-night supermarket. The store, vast and brightly lit, felt more oppressive than empty at 3 a.m. While meticulously arranging cereal boxes, he heard it, a clear whisper, his own name, right beside his ear. He spun around, heart pounding, but there was no one. The aisle stretched out, silent and perfect. He tried to rationalize it, blaming exhaustion. But then a can of soup on the top shelf, untouched, slid off and crashed at his feet. A wave of bone-chilling cold washed over him, far colder than the freezer aisle. He didn't speak a word about it, but the memory of that voice and the way the air had solidified around him kept him looking over his shoulder for weeks. For some, these encounters happen on the open road. Take David, a long-haul truck driver traversing deserted stretches of highway through the American Southwest. One particularly dark, moonless night, a figure appeared suddenly in his headlights, a woman in a faded white dress standing motionless by the roadside. He slowed down, a knot forming in his stomach. As he passed, he glanced in his side mirror. She was still there, but her head was tilted at an unnatural angle, watching him, eyes reflecting nothing. Just as quickly, she vanished, but the image remained, seared into his mind, and the unnerving scent of ozone filled his cab for the rest of the night. He's driven that route for 20 years, and he's never seen another soul in that exact spot. What about places meant for human comfort, like hotels? Lisa, a night auditor at a historic downtown hotel, had a guest check in via phone late one evening, a Mr. Chambers. She assigned him room 313. Later, hearing a commotion, she checked the surveillance. A shadowy figure seemed to be struggling with the lock to room 313, eventually getting in. Alarmed, she called up, but the phone rang unanswered. When the day staff arrived, they confirmed room 313 was empty, untouched, as if no one had ever entered, and the register showed no Mr. Chambers checked in at all. Yet, for the entire next week, every night at the same hour, the light in room 313 would inexplicably turn on, stay lit for an hour, and then switch off again. And finally, the old manufacturing plant, a labyrinth of steel and concrete where Benjamin worked the graveyard shift. He was the only one in his section. Machines, usually quiet and dormant, would occasionally rumble to life. A conveyor belt briefly spinning, a drill pressing air, only to fall silent the moment he approached. He'd check the circuit breakers, the control panels, finding everything in perfect order. One night, an ear-splitting metallic shriek echoed from the far end of the darkened factory floor, like a colossal piece of machinery being ripped apart. He froze, convinced something massive had collapsed. He sprinted, flashlight beam cutting through the darkness, but found nothing, not a single thing out of place. The quiet returned, heavier and more profound than before. These workers, isolated in the deep quiet of the night, stumbled into experiences that fundamentally altered their sense of what is possible. They encountered glimpses of a reality that the daylight conveniently hides, leaving them with memories that are not just disturbing, but truly unforgettable. And it leaves us to wonder, what else stirs in the shadows when the rest of the world is asleep?